Federal government Southwest governors meet Vice President Osinbajo over Amotekun. Parties settle for a legal framework. Senate to name Constitution Review Panel next Tuesday. In international news, China battles coronavirus as it ushers in Lunar Year. And in sport, Samson Siasia begs Nigerians to help him raise 250,000 euros to appeal FIFA ban.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. There seems to be headway between the federal government and Southwest governors in the regional security operations squabble. Both parties have agreed to draw up a legal framework for the security network, codenamed Amotekun. The 6 governors and the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, have resolved to ensure the Amotekun structure also aligned with the community policing strategy of the federal government. This was reached in a meeting chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo in Abuja. Under State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu dismissed the apparent insinuation that the federal government had wanted to stop the security initiative. Akeredolu said the Attorney General was misquoted on the matter. Amotekun is a security initiative inaugurated earlier this month to address insecurity challenges in the Southwest region. Nigeria has further slipped in the global rating of the latest Transparency International's yearly corruption perception index. 180 countries and territories are ranked by their perceived levels of public sector corruption, reached through opinions of experts and business persons. The ratings go from 0, signifying highly corrupt countries, to 100 for very clean nations. The report released on Thursday scores Nigeria 26 out of 100 points. The country dropped 1 point from the 27 points it had maintained since 2017. In 2018, Nigeria improved by 4 places from 148 to 144. In this latest report, Nigeria ranks the 4th most corrupt country among 19 countries in the West African region. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has discredited the ratings. It says Nigeria deserves a higher placement in the Global Corruption Index. But the People's Democratic Party says the report is a vindication of its stand that corruption had worsened under President Muhammadu Buhari and the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Godiya Akwashiki, says the Senate's first assignment when it resumes plenary next Tuesday is to constitute a review panel for the 1999 Constitution. Akwashiki says the Senate has decided on this because of public outcry for a review of the nation's law to tackle insecurity and other social and economic challenges. He said many senators across party lines are also known to be agitating for the immediate composition of the panel, and that some of the senators have sponsored bills to amend sections of the Constitution. Justice Idris Kutige of the Abuja High Court has ordered the remand of the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mohammed Adoke, and 2 of his co-defendants who are currently in EFCC custody over his involvement in the Malabu oil scam. This came after the defendants pleaded not guilty to the 42 counts filed against them by the EFCC. Those arraigned alongside Adoke were Aliyu Abubakar, who was accused of offering 300 million naira gratification to Adoke in relation to the Malabu oil deal, and the former company's secretary and legal advisor of Malabu Oil and Gas Limited, Raski Ginebi. The Malabu oil scam involved alleged fraudulent transfer of the highly lucrative oil prospecting lease 245 to Malabu Oil and Gas in 1998 and subsequently to Ajip and Shell. EFCC has alleged the former Minister of Petroleum Resources in the Sani Abacha regime, Dan Etete, who is now at large, was involved in the transfer of the oil block to Malabu Oil and Gas. EFCC has accused Adoke of playing a pivotal role and receiving 300 million bribe in the deal. The Saraki family and the Kwara State government have decided to settle out of court the disputes concerning the demolition of the Saraki family home known as Ile Arugbo. Reports say Saraki family wrote to the Kwara State government on the advice of the judge in charge of the case. Ile Arugbo is known to be the political home of late Olushola Saraki, father of former president of the Senate, Bukola Saraki. Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak has said the land, originally designated for the construction of a secretariat and parking lot of the Civil Service Clinic, was illegally allocated to ASA Investment Limited, a private firm owned by the Sarakis. The Saraki family disagree. Counsel to the firm, Ayodeji Ibrahim, said in a letter addressed to the Commissioner for Justice and the State Attorney General, Salman Jawondo, that the applicants were now willing to settle the matter out of court in line with the presiding judge's advice. Founder of Okoloyun Worldwide and Defeus International, Fatah Yusuf, popularly known as Okoloyun, was assassinated on Thursday afternoon along Eruwa Igbora Road in Iseyin, Oyo State. Okoloyun was the national president and president general of West African Physiotherapist. He was also the manufacturer of yo-yo beaters and Fajik flusher, among other herbal products. Oyo State Police Public Relations Officer Benga Fadeyi says a high-powered manhunt is underway for the killers, whom he says will be brought to justice.
Coming up, African stories. Africa begins preventive measures against coronavirus. And later, international news. China battles coronavirus as it ushers in Lunar Year.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa say they have begun screening of persons as a preventive measure against the coronavirus that have been ravaging China. Nigeria's Center for Disease Control has issued a travel advisory that spelled out key measures being undertaken. NCDC says it is currently coordinating a technical group that is assessing and managing the risk of importation to Nigeria. Meanwhile, Ghana, along with other development partners, met on Thursday to devise a response plan in readiness should the virus spread to the country. Ghana has mounted surveillance at entry points in the country, and South Africa's National Institute of Communicable Diseases has assured citizens there is nothing about which to worry. The agency says it has public health under control and that steps are being taken to ensure the disease would not spread to the country. Same in Kenya, where the health ministry has said surveillance at all ports of entry has been intensified and screening of passengers for coronavirus is underway. There were calls for Ethiopian Airlines to start screening passengers flying in from Wuhan and other Chinese cities where coronavirus outbreak has been documented. An Ethiopian physician and advisor to the WHO Director General, Professor Senat Fisaya, said in a tweet, the risk of spread of this highly contagious virus to Africa is very high, given the large number of flights and persons that fly through Addis Ababa. The financial woes that have dogged South Africa's national carrier, South African Airways, has deepened so much that it has begun to lose customer confidence. The airline is fast running out of cash after the government failed to provide $130 million emergency funding. South African Airways entered bankruptcy protection last month. Angela Coppola has more on that story.
The airline has already used $140 million of funding and is waiting for an injection of a similar amount from the government, which is several weeks late.
Our members are feeling very worried, they're very anxious, and I think they have good reason to feel that way. It does seem very clear to us that this business rescue process is in jeopardy. In fact, as NUMSA and SACA, we've gone as far as saying that it's been sabotaged by both Treasury and the Ministry of Public Enterprises.
The Solidarity Union was responsible for preempting the decision by government to put SAA in voluntary liquidation. They aren't excited about the progress made thus far or the government's apparent lack of interest in raising the money needed.
And now we have Minister Mboweni still saying they don't know if they can find the funds. So why go through the ruse? Why, if you don't have the money, why go through business rescue? So we're happy with the sort of signs that we see that finally we're in a radical restructuring process, but we're quite unhappy with the amount of influence that we think government is still exercising.
While the airline's future hangs in the balance, passengers are putting on a brave face.
Yes, it's quite a little bit of discomfort because I don't know whether when I get back I'll be able to get back home safely and in time. But hopefully, crossing fingers that when we get back, then we'll be able to fly back to South Africa. I'm hopeful that all these things they should be sorted out and SAA will be back on its feet.
The airline has seen its fair share of turnaround plans over the years, none of which have led to any substantial improvement in profitability or operating efficiency.
But we've never actually had the patient in surgery. We've always been giving Panadol and Disprins for somebody who needs open heart surgery. Now we've got them on the slab. Now it's just to start cutting away the right pieces and making sure that the radical restructuring that is necessary actually takes place.
The unions say they're committed to the business rescue process and the plan that will emerge shortly, because they don't have a choice.
Because if business rescue fails, it means that 10,000 workers and their families face job losses. And that is not something that as unions we can just simply accept. So we are putting all the pressure to bear on all of those who are responsible for the mess that they've created to force them to act in the interests of all of us.
The situation at SAA has become dire based on the fact that so many of those flights have been cancelled for the next 4 days, which leaves the crew on the ground and basically unemployed.
Madagascar National Disaster Office says at least 12 persons have died in floods across the island country this week after unseasonable heavy rain. 18 persons are also reported missing. Parts of Africa have experienced heavy rain in recent months because the Indian Ocean is warmer than usual, partly as a result of cyclical weather phenomenon and partly because oceans are warming everywhere. United Nations and government figures show floods, landslide and a cyclone killed more than 1,200 persons across eastern and southern Africa last year. UN also says flooding has displaced nearly 500,000 persons in southern Sudan, 200,000 in Ethiopia, and at least 370,000 in Somalia last year. A just released 2019 Corruption Perceptions Index, the CPI, ranked Somalia as still the world's most corrupt country. The index is published annually by Transparency International, assessing perceived levels of public sector corruption in 180 countries. Transparency International says Somalia's poor rule of law has created room for everything from petty bribery to high-level political corruption. Somali government has dismissed similar poor rankings by the CPI in the past. The government says it was false and unreliable. Somalia's finance minister, Abdurrahman Duale, previously threatened to sue Transparency International. And while Transparency International is calling for the establishment of structures for political accountability to facilitate anti-corruption mechanisms.
Up next, sport. Samson Siasia begs Nigerians to help him raise €250,000 to appeal FIFA ban. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the international scene, China rang in the Lunar Year with celebrations across the country. Chinese New Year, also known as Spring Festival or Lunar New Year, is the grandest festival in China with a 7-day-long holiday. As the most colorful annual event, the traditional Chinese New Year celebration lasts longer, up to 2 weeks, and the climax arrives around the Lunar New Year Eve. During this period, China is dominated by iconic red lanterns, loud fireworks, massive banquets and parades, and the festival even triggers exuberant celebrations across the globe. In the midst of all the celebrations, China is racing to contain the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan as confirmed cases rise in other major cities in the country. The outbreak came amid China's Spring Festival travel rush, which began last week, raising fears that the spread will intensify. Major Spring Festival events in Beijing have been cancelled in the midst of the coronavirus that has now killed 26 and sickened more than 800. Reporter Wong Gusun has more.
National efforts are underway to prevent further outbreaks of pneumonia linked to the coronavirus.
The Chinese government and people are confident we can defeat the new epidemic and win this battle.
The National Health Commission and 32 government departments have set up a new mechanism vowing effective coordination. Dealing of the epidemic will be carried out based on laws. People outside Wuhan are advised to avoid going there, and Wuhan residents are advised not to leave the city.
Next, we will continue to focus on Wuhan and strengthen the implementation of various prevention and control measures. At the same time, we will further strengthen nationwide prevention and control work, strictly implement the prevention and control measures during the Chinese New Year travel rush.
And they vow not to hide the truth. The nation's top health authority says they have released all key information in a timely manner and vows to stay transparent.
We attach great importance to information disclosure, which is very important, in order to make the public timely, accurately, and comprehensively understand the information. From January 20th, the National Health Commission began collecting and releasing the data of confirmed cases and suspected cases in all provinces of the country every day. It can be seen on the National Health Commission's website.
The authorities say China immediately reported the cases to countries including Russia. Information is being shared with technical departments and embassies of Thailand, Japan, South Korea, and the US. Free diagnostic reagents have been offered to Hong Kong and Macau. The nation has been keeping close contact with the World Health Organization from the beginning.
We have maintained close communication with the WHO, and we shared the whole gene sequence of the new coronavirus with the WHO at the beginning. We have set up a special team to organize in-depth exchanges between Chinese experts and the WHO's experts on the disease. At present, 4 expert communication meetings have been held, and WHO experts have been invited to Wuhan for on-the-spot investigation.
Authorities say so far there's no evidence of a super spreader like with SARS or MERS outbreaks in years past. One patient infected over 100 other people, and that's a key area of focus now. The top health authority has been publishing a daily data of confirmed cases in each province since Monday. They say there's a possibility that the virus might mutate and the epidemic might spread further, but they vow to stay transparent in releasing relative information in a timely manner.
Still in Wuhan, medical efforts have been stepped up in Hubei province to curb the new coronavirus. Although this is a holiday season greatly anticipated by Chinese people, many medical workers have volunteered to give up their holiday to help in the fight against this disease.
Wuhan on lockdown. Public transport in the central Chinese city and outbound air and train travel are all suspended. Residents remain inside the city or doing what they can.
This is a very critical time. We're taking a lot of care every day, wearing masks and frequently washing hands. It's essential for each person to take precautions.
We need to do this to support the government's efforts. I come from Shanxi province, but I'm not going home this year.
Wearing a mask is now mandatory in the city, and the mass production of masks, protective clothing, and thermometers is underway.
To deal with pneumonia, we've created and produced a new kind of device for instant screening of body temperature. There's a table version, a handheld version, and it can also be inserted on phones.
Similar measures take effect in nearby Huanggang, a city of more than 7 million. And starting from 24th, there will be free refunds for train tickets nationwide. Chinese people in and out of Wuhan are all in the fight against the virus.
Britain's withdrawal from the European Union has cleared a hurdle at the European Parliament on Friday. The European Union Constitutional Committee has voted to approve the divorce deal struck with London. Members of the European Parliament voted 23-3 to recommend that a full sitting of the Parliament next week formally signed off on the accord under which Britain will end its 47-year EU membership on January 31st. This is the last step to formalize the split on the European side. Two top EU officials are expected to sign the separation treaty on Friday, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson will ink the deal afterwards.
Up next, sports. Samson Siasia begs Nigerians to help him raise €250,000 to appeal FIFA ban. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. Former Super Eagles coach Samson Siasia has released a video in which he's asking for €250,000 donation from Nigerians to fund his FIFA Live ban appeal. He was slammed with a ban after being found guilty of accepting bribes in order to manipulate matches. Siasia says he decided to reach out to Nigerians for donations so he would be able to defend himself and hopefully overturn the lifetime ban. Seven-time tennis champion Serena Williams is out of the Australian Open, her earliest exit from a major tournament in 14 years. She lost to Chinese player Yang Wan in a stunning third-round upset. This defeat ends the U.S. tennis star's bid for a record equaling 24th Grand Slam title. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.